Up next, the VA's so-called death book. We'll follow up on the controversial story we brought you last week. Back in a moment. We got a huge response from you about our story last week on a document the VA is using to provide end-of-life counseling and whether it encourages veterans to pull the plug. Well, today we want to bring you the latest.
We just urge them to use them.
I have a problem here, and so too often on these shows we just say one person said it, another person said, Secretary.
It was an explosive interview on an explosive subject. Tammy Duckworth, Assistant Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, defending use of the document Your Life, Your Choices. But the interview raised almost as many questions as it answered. So this week we did a fact check on the controversy. First, whether what critics call the death book is actually being used.
It'll be out in 2010. It's not yet out. So Mr. Tolley was not correct.
Secretary Duckworth, that's just not true.
We checked again this week, and Secretary Duckworth is wrong. On July 2nd, the Veterans Health Administration reinstated the workbook for veterans called Your Life, Your Choices, and urged health care practitioners to use it. Here's why it's so controversial. Page 21 is a worksheet in which veterans are asked to assess whether in certain situations life would be difficult but acceptable, worth living but just barely, or not worth living. Situations like, I can no longer walk but get around in a wheelchair. I am a severe financial burden on my family, and I cannot seem to shake the blues. Which raises the question, how much is the VA pushing Your Life, Your Choices?
Let me make a correction there, Chris. What our practitioners were told is to refer patients to any type of a tool.
Duckworth is both right and wrong. In the VHA handbook, they do tell doctors to provide written materials such as Appendix C, and at another point, other published resources. But the VHA handbook specifically mentions only one document, Your Life, Your Choices. Now that there's a controversy, the VA has flagged the workbook on its website with this disclaimer. The document is currently undergoing revision for release in VA. The revised version will be available soon, which raises another question.
But why have it up there at all? Why not just say we're going to take it down?
Because we are bound by federal law.
We checked and could not find any law forcing the VA to keep the workbook on its website. Now the VA says it's Obama administration policy and referred us to a March 9th White House memorandum. Political officials should not suppress or alter scientific or technological findings and conclusions. The VA now claims Your Life, Your Choices was developed from federally funded scientific research. Senator Arlen Specter, a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee, was also on last week's show and reacted sharply.
I think consideration ought to be given right now to suspending it, pending hearings before the Veterans Affairs Committee.
Steve Boyer, top Republican on the House Committee, also called for hearings and echoed Specter's concerns. Your Life, Your Choices is obviously not suitable in its current form for veterans, and especially not for wounded warriors.
The Your Life, Your Choices workbook is still on the government website. But late this week, the VA expanded its disclaimer. Please note that portions of this document have been interpreted by some to be negative in tone and insufficiently balanced. The revision process is addressing those concerns. And we promise we will stay on the story.